Well, welcome to the Growth Agency podcast.
Thank you very
Um,
much
the the
for
goal
having
here,
me.
the goal here is really to inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs. To bring people like you to hear about your growth story. The journey from when you were young to now. Because a lot of people are wondering, man, I want to move to the next stage of my life. How did all these people do it? How these people like you do it? So it's like, okay, we want to hear from you, then, know what the journey looks like. Then, um, go up until now, what is like the plans for the future? What's like the vision of what you're building, stuffs like that. So thank you so much for coming on this podcast.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I guess we can start from for people that don't know you, let's start from there. I guess who is Adeshina? Let's meet you.
All right, so Adeshina Adewumi is actually the CEO for Lenda. Lenda is actually a digital bank focusing on tailored-made financial offerings for small and medium-scale businesses across emerging markets. Starting with Nigeria, we started out in 2021, and to date, we've been able to, attract, a growing community of over 260,000 MSMEs.
Wow, 260,000. Wow, that's
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 correct.
amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's take a step back here. Before we this addition that we know now as a CEO of Trade Lender, let's go back to the very beginning. You're in Nigeria, you grew up in Nigeria. I was reading your just a bit about you, you're the youngest of three, then growing up in the ministry. So maybe you could just walk us through that.
Well, I think I grew up like every normal child. I grew up in Port Harcourt. Port Harcourt is actually a particular location in Rivers State, a part of the South region of Nigeria. Because I know we have a global audience that will be
True.
listening to this.
Yeah.
So basically, I grew up in Port Harcourt with hardworking parents who needed to put in all the work. My dad was working then with the government, and my mom had her own business.
Yeah.
And I think that was my first exposure to understanding the power and the role that women and also their businesses actually play in sustaining the home. So at the early age of 7, I had to support my mom with her business. So what looked like a small business at some point then became like the major source of income for our family, and
Mm,
that kind of opened my mind. I had to do a whole lot of accounting, basic bookkeeping,
mm.
and then I said, no, I want to be an accountant, right?
All
So that
right.
was really my like what defined my career journey to say, no, I want to be an accountant,
All right.
because I could touch money at that young
All
age and all
right.
that.
All right.
And then going into military school, it was a whole different ball game, because military school gave me that exposure. At the age of 11, I earned my first salary, from the government.
Ooh, wow.
It gave me independence, quite early. Not just earning my salary, but I could pay my school fees myself.
Oh.
Yeah, it was that interesting, right? So imagine an 11-year-old, having a break, and they give you the bill for your school fees,
Yeah,
and you can see how much you're also being paid. You
like,
can pay your school fees.
oh,
So it was quite interesting, right? And because I was staying in Port Harcourt and I was schooling in the north, it gave me a whole holistic view of the potentials that our nation, Nigeria, actually has in stock. Because this is me in the northern region of Nigeria, and then growing up in the south region, and I'm basically originally from the southwest, right?
yeah.
So that exposure of culture, of people, and understanding and appreciating diversity was given to me on a platter of gold from that early age.
Hmm.
And then after military school, obviously military school, you have to take a lot of responsibilities, leadership, and then after the program, I had to then enroll in the university, to further my higher education. So that really gave me quite a handful of opportunities.
Wow, wow, that's crazy. Cause how many 11-year-olds can say that they're already earning pay? Cause I remember when I was 11, what was I? I was probably I don't know, playing ball on the street or something like that.
I played ball too, but I think military school took that away immediately.
but yeah, but it's interesting you say that at that early age, like you've already had that break. So like, you know what? We're gonna come back to this subject of having a break because like it's sort of one of my further questions. Well, like I guess what did that like transition look like from like just being at home, then like all of a sudden you go into like a military school. Like I imagine like if that shaped like your perspective of life and like I guess military school like they are very strict, they are very very disciplined, and like kids are not exactly known for all of those things. Kids they like freedom. They like to like be creative, but like in military school you have to be like strict. Like what did that look like?
I would say just like every other person who
Yeah.
went through that or went through those gates, right? It was
Yeah.
tough for the
Oh.
first year.
Yeah.
In fact, a lot of people left. A lot of people couldn't survive.
Mm.
But what that really gave to me was discipline.
Right.
Being able to see things through, being able to like have that mindset that whatsoever you start, you have
Mm.
the ability to finish.
Mm.
You don't start and quit.
Mm.
So discipline, patriotism
Mm.
for our nation and for anything that you commit yourself
Mm.
was really instilled in us.
Mm.
And then the other part is taking responsibility.
Right.
In military school, we have this adage that if your classmates, commit an offense, most times it doesn't serve the punishment alone. All of you serve the
Oh, that
punishment too.
sucks.
So you have to take the responsibility to make sure that he does the right thing so that
Right.
all of you are saved and
Wow,
spared.
wow, wow, wow. That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
like interesting lesson, like, for a kid to like just walk into like and have to learn that.
And
But
that lesson, sorry to interrupt, that
yeah.
lesson is very important in business, right?
Mm.
Because most often time, we feel like, you know, it doesn't concern you or it
Right.
doesn't concern us in that sense. But if you're a business development person and the other person is actually in maybe technology,
Right.
if both of you don't do your jobs, it affects the business.
True, true. If product is crap or like you're trying to sell, like
It's not going to
nothing is
work.
working. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So I guess fast forward from military school, you went into Bowen University. I guess that's sort of like another shift. Now you're no longer like under this military regime. Now you're like in a more freer society. Again, what did that look like?
Okay, so before the transition into the university,
Yeah,
I had a 1 year where I went to Polytechnic.
yeah.
Polytechnic is like you doing a diploma course,
Mm-hmm.
and because I actually did fail WAEC, so WAEC is actually what we call the West African, um, you know, Examination Council,
Yeah,
which everybody going from high school have to
to
pass in
take
that
yeah.
sense. So I failed maths. And if you backtrack a bit, both in my elementary, which we call primary school, and secondary school, I was very good with maths.
Oh,
So having to go through this exam and fail maths of all
wow.
courses was quite strange for me.
Mm,
So I think that's kind of just toughened me up because I'm like,
right,
I could actually fail something I'm good with.
right.
you know it was quite hard again
Mm,
because again like I said, military school, discipline, responsibility, a whole lot of things, right?
yeah.
So I was pushed to go rewrite that and I had
Mm.
to wear, we call it civilian uniform. So I had to wear the civilian uniform.
Oh my god, like come on, like you're sort of like trying to shade the rest of but it's okay, it's okay, we
Yeah.
forgive you.
Yeah, but it was, for me then, it was like a shameful, like a reproach.
Oh my god. No
Because
wonder the military guys in Nigeria like they look at everybody like you bloody civilian. But
so
it's
it's
okay.
just like a reproach, right? Which really, just that is the uniform that everybody that didn't go to
Right.
military school wore all through their,
Mm,
high school, right? But for me, I was like, how can I wear this uniform? So sometimes I put the uniform in my bag. I wear my normal clothes. When
right.
I get to the school that I want to write the exam, I'll then wear it just so that I can write the exam. It was quite tough.
Right.
But again, that gave me, or that prepared me in advance
Mm.
to be able to blend in
With
within the civilian
right.
environment. So going through that process, and also then going through the diploma program, I was able to relate with a whole lot of people, and
Mm.
that prepared me because one other thing that you find out, especially for those who go to military school, is there's really a certain way of doing things, and they find it hard to blend into this
Mm.
society.
Mm. Mm. It's interesting you sort of see like a positive side of this where like this basically like helps you in terms of your social life. That's like one very very crucial aspect of business, like the popular saying like your network is your
That's
net
correct.
worth. So like you need to like be very very social in business. But I guess we would sort of move forward, we'll get to that. So like, okay, so now coming to Boeing, what did
Yeah.
that look like?
So Bowen was good. One thing was that my dad had lost his job with the government.
Yeah.
So this business had now grown. My mom's little
Oh.
business and their own business now, had now grown. But still, Bowen was a private university. I
Yeah.
was the first of the three boys to go to a private university. Nobody
Okay.
planned that any of us would go to a private university in that sense.
Oh.
So because I was earning and I'd earned, I told my parent that, see, just take care of my school fees. All my upkeep, I'll take care of it.
Mm.
So that was my agreement and my pact with my parents, to go to the private university called
Right.
Boehm.
Right.
Um, so I knew early on that I needed to fend for myself and I needed to increase my sources of income
Mm.
from the get go because even the admission, the acceptance fee, I paid it myself with my money,
Oh.
right? So I knew that I had to be prepared for what the next 4 years was all about. So
Mm.
I was focused on getting the best out of it with a good degree. But
Mm.
again, I knew that I also needed to find a balance. So I
Mm.
did something very interesting. I identified people who were good socially because again, I'm coming from military school.
Yeah.
How do I blend in? I wasn't used to wearing, fancy ties,
Right. So shirt and
shirts and all
trouser.
that. I wasn't used to that, right?
Right.
All we wore was black shoes, black boots, actually, black
Right.
boots. So now you want to wear, a particular kind of tie, you need to know what combines and what combination works.
Mm-hmm.
So, um,
Okay. You
yeah,
can.
so basically, having the right set of friends, I had a particular friend that was very good academically.
Mm-hmm.
I had a particular friend that was very good socially.
Mm.
He didn't really care about the academics side of
Okay.
things. And I had other friends which wherever there's a party, they
Mm.
know where it is. And then I had another friend, that was focused on leadership, business, and all that. This exposure led me to join Purpose Group, and
Mm.
that's where I was handed my first, leadership book and also inspirational books. I read a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. That changed
Right.
my perspective to life.
Mm.
That that transformed me. That helped me to be able to understand that to be able to achieve a whole lot, I needed to, genuinely love people and
Mm.
work with people.
Mm.
It's just like what you said earlier that your net worth, is dependent on
The
your
network.
network.
Yeah.
So it was very crucial for me
Mm.
that I built this influence. And
Mm.
I think over the 4 year period, I built that influence. And with that influence, I was able to make a whole lot of money while in Bowen.
Oh
The
wow.
first business I entered into in Bowen was actually just trading off things from people. So I had cash, right? So I trade off a phone. I buy it at maybe $6, and then I go out and sell it at maybe $12. And then I take that $12 and buy something else again from someone else who needs the money, and then I sell it again. And then gradually that money multiplied. And with that, I was able to then put aside, certain funds, which I traveled, constantly then began traveling to Lagos. So Lagos, Nigeria is like the commercial city across Nigeria. So I traveled constantly to Lagos.
Yeah.
And whenever I travel to Lagos, I buy a whole lot of stuff from Computer Village.
Mm.
I can buy it for as little as 15 cents and come back and sell it for almost $2, $3.
Wow.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
So I made a whole lot of money, and with more money, my influence grew because
Whoa.
now I had more money to diversify into different business. So I
Right.
opened up other businesses while in school, like you know I had a photocopying business. I had different kind of businesses.
Wow.
I sold recharge cards. Those days the paper
Wow.
recharge card. I sold and I made millions, right? Because I wasn't trying to make all the money myself, right? I
Mm,
already understood how to work with people. So the first thing I did was to set up what we call Achievers Club, right? A group of people who every day, put aside 10 cents, you know, of their money that they could have used for other alternative use.
yeah.
And then we aggregate this money together. And then this money was used for business activities and we all share the profits.
Mm,
But it didn't stop at that. So whenever I have a business, to distribute, I use the same people to say, see, I'm giving you at $1, go and sell it for $2, but
mm.
give me my $1 back. So I had a lot of distribution. So across all the hostels in Bowen University, people were there selling recharge card for me.
You sound like a cabal. Like all those Mexican cartel boss that is just sitting on the chair like, yeah, all your
Yeah,
minions just
so I
go
was
to work.
relaxing and money was coming.
Oh wow.
And in fact, if I was wiser,
Yeah.
I think I would have been a billionaire by now.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
So let me ask, at what age did you get into Boeing?
I got into Bohem in 2008, so that means I was just before I was 18.
Oh wow. So like as at that age like this, you already know so much. So guys, if you're a young person, like you're not too young to say like, to understand business. Cause like if you can hear like based on what he's saying, literally like just before entering university, like you're already like, helping to like multiply your mom's business. You already have like leadership experience and you're already like, you're working with people, like you're already like beyond just even making money, you're like empowering people to like also make money as well. Like you're collaborating with people as well, which is really, really interesting to hear. So I guess like I would like what was the journey from like I guess entering Bowen to like the end of it, then sort of like transitioning to like outside of university.
Yeah, so I think with the influence, I joined other groups. I joined, a club
Yeah.
called Purpose Group
Mm.
on campus, where we had various exposures to great leaders doing amazing stuff,
Right.
inspiring leaders doing amazing stuff outside of campus.
Mm-hmm.
Example is Fela Durute, a
Mm.
whole lot of them, who were amazing people,
Yeah.
who came on campus, spoke to us, inspired us,
Mm.
and that really, kind of created a whole new path for me.
Mm.
But again, academics wise, I did not badly, in that sense. At least I graduated with a first class after the whole process and all that. So it was quite an interesting journey.
Mm.
Um, but again, after school, what next?
Right.
Everybody
That's like
expects you
yeah.
graduated with a first class. Go get a job.
Right.
Nobody expects you to go do business.
Right. Right.
But again, I try to defy the odds. So during our compulsory youth service scheme, which we popularly call the NYC program in Nigeria,
Mm-hmm.
I decided to set up an office, and then I employed a few people,
Oh wow.
to work with me.
Like just straight out of school.
Straight out of school, I took the money I had, rented a space, build a signage. I still pass through that office almost every time I visit,
Oh my god.
that location. So I then asked myself, how can I make my fellow youth corps members,
Mm,
that's the mandatory service here, make extra money because
mm.
then they were just paying us about maybe $15 or even $10
Yeah,
thereabout.
that's not a lot.
So I
And
wanted
this was
to.
in Lagos, right?
No, this was actually in Kwara
In
State.
Kwara.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I decided to help them make other side income.
Okay.
And the side income was actually just matching parents,
Mm.
with tutors. And who are the tutors? Those
These guys.
undergoing that, 1 year
Oh.
mandatory service, youth service. So let me check this stuff. This one.
Sorry, cut.
Yeah. I just want to be sure that it's all good. It's all good, Abby.
Yes.
It's still
Good,
recording,
good,
even
good.
regardless of if it's off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's good we confirm. Okay. We'll continue now.
So what I did was to create what I then termed Home Tutors Nigeria. So with Home Tutors Nigeria, people could, easily look for verified tutors.
Yeah.
And because they were undergoing the compulsory 1 year service, it was easy to verify them, right? So I
Right.
matched, tons of youth corpers across Kwara State,
Mm.
to parents, and I made a commission of everybody that was,
Wow.
being matched. But soon the pressure came. You need to get a job. You need to get a job. You need to get a job. So I lectured a bit in University of Ilorin, lectured in bit again with Alikma University, and then I got a job with Stanbic IBTC by 2014, and I had to move to Lagos. So I abandoned everything about the business, shut it down, closed it up,
And you came
and
to get a
moved.
job in
I
Lagos.
got a job in Lagos.
I'm curious, like, based on, like, do you regret that decision?
Well, I won't say I do, because I had always wanted a bit of corporate
Right.
experience. I wanted to understand how things are supposed to be done in terms of the corporate
Mm.
world. So working with Stanbic IBTC was like the best working environment for me, because at
Mm.
Stanbic, you have an open door policy and several other things right now.
Mm.
This is no marketing for the bank, right?
Stop making pay us for this.
Yeah.
How about it?
Maybe they should come and make me a brand ambassador.
Oh, well, yeah.
But there's a saying we say at Stanbic, right? Once a blue, always a blue.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So basically, that gave me that openness to a whole lot of um, things that were required
Yeah.
to build up a career in the corporate world.
Mm.
And within a year, I was able to mobilize, even though that wasn't really my core KPI, right? I was able to
Right.
mobilize close to like 100 million naira in value from people within my network into the mutual funds. I think people saw me as young, energetic, so they gave me more responsibilities than my usual role, right?
Yeah.
So I was saddled with the task of actually automating the process for the direct debit process. So many years back, 20 to 2014, there was nothing called, then the process I met on ground was you want them to debit your account every 14th day of the
Yeah.
month. We need to get you to sign a paper,
Right.
and then we need to then send it to the bank every 14th. So if we forget on 13th or on the 14th, you
It
won't be
doesn't.
debited.
Oh.
So it was very manual. But when I came on board, I was saddled with that responsibility, and we worked with NIPS, we worked with InterSwitch to be able to automate those processes.
Mm.
And really, today, everybody understands that Stanbic, in terms of the asset management, is like the number one across
Mm.
Nigeria.
Mm.
So that process single-handedly gave me a lot of exposure, made me go on various radio shows. I
Mm.
wasn't in
Mm.
sales, I was in operations. And again, this is actually a message to every young chap that is listening out there. For the fact that you were employed as an intern
Mm.
doesn't mean that you should
It's,
not embrace other areas that can stretch you and can make you grow.
mm.
I was in operations, but I
You're
was
doing sales.
exposed to business development. I
Mm.
was exposed to investment management. I
Mm.
was exposed to technology, because I was saddled with the process of automating the process for
Mm.
this direct debit.
Mm. Mm.
And what happened afterwards? I was poached from the asset management company to the bank. And
Mm.
then I was the assistant lead, meaning second in charge of everything about payments and collections for Stanbic IBTC.
Oh, and this is how many years after school?
Just well, you say maybe 2 years
Two
plus.
years. So like,
Yeah.
wow, after like 2 years
Yeah. Or let's
NYC,
just
they're
say two,
like,
3 years, because I resumed at the bank in 2015.
wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy. That's a crazy goal. Well, okay. So like, I guess I know that you started your first company like afterwards, like Proville. So like, I guess what was like the defining thing where you're like, you know what, I need to live like this Stanbic IBTC. I know I'm doing well, yeah, and I'm probably on track to maybe like become like the top level like executive or something like that. But like moving from like Stanbic into founding your first company, what did that look like?
Okay, so let me just make a little correction. So
Yeah.
Provi wasn't really my company, but I'm
Okay.
going to give you the full gist, right?
Okay.
So when I left the bank in 2016,
Mm,
I just felt like it was time to leave. I
mm,
felt like I had gotten that exposure, both in the asset management, both also for technology, working with every the big players in this space, whether it's
Mm.
interest rate, whether it's Bank One, which we now call Zone. We worked with
Mm.
every microfinance bank literally across Nigeria, right?
Yeah.
Um, I just felt like I could do more.
Mm.
But one other thing that you will see, and this is actually connecting the dots. Remember when I was going through that mandatory 1 year youth
Yeah.
service, I was building Home Tutors Nigeria.
Right. Yeah.
By 2015, a whole lot of tutors, tech companies were springing up.
Mm.
Example was prep class.
Yeah. Yeah.
An example was tutorial.
Mm.
All these guys were springing up. And then I asked myself, with all this experience that I have, don't you think you can do better?
Mm.
But let me tell you a secret. They didn't tell me it was tough out there.
Wow.
So I wasn't prepared. So I resigned in 2016 and I said, oh, I want to go venture on my stuff. And then the
Life
hard truth
hits.
hit me, you know. And again, now, this is for those who are actually looking to leave their 9 to 5. One defining question you need to ask yourself: do you actually have the capacity to
Mm.
leave that 9 to 5 and
Mm.
start yours?
Mm. Mm.
Because most times people jump too soon.
Mm. Mm.
It doesn't mean that there's any perfect time to jump, but it just simply means that you need to ask yourself a whole lot of questions and be prepared mentally, emotionally, and financially.
Mm.
So I left the job in 2016 and I decided to, start mine, and things were not rosy. So by 2018, I said, I've had enough because I didn't make any headway, right?
Right.
I've had enough. I'd done consulting for small businesses here and there, going to the eco market, matched a few people. But every time in Lagos, the parents were asking, where's your office? Because they were security conscious. Unlike in Ilorin, where I had an office and it was very affordable to get an office in Ilorin.
Yes.
Lagos costed times 10 of what it takes
Oh.
to rent a space.
Mm.
So they would ask me, where's your office? And I didn't have an office. So that reduced the number of people who could patronize me for the home tutors,
Mm.
right? So by 2018, I said no. I needed to, take on a new role. And by 2018, someone saw how energetic I was, which I'm very appreciative of. Till today, some visionaries who started Proville needed a young person
Mm.
to be the front, someone who could actually, see the product go into the market.
Right.
So then they were at the development stage, and they needed somebody to be able to take this to the market. So they brought me on board and said, "See, you're going to be the one to run this as
Mm.
a CEO, and then you're going to run it like yours." And then I had a team put together, and I ran with that,
Mm.
for at least over a year plus, almost a year, 6 months.
Mm.
I ran with that vision, and I'm deeply grateful for that opportunity
Mm.
because what that did for me was it gave me a new, fresh start.
Mm.
The shoes were different because I've never been. I was in the bank,
Right.
a banking officer, you know. And for those who don't understand what a banking officer means, it means that I've kind of rose a bit up the ladder. But a
Mm.
banking officer is still relatively still in the early
Yeah.
stage, right? I'm
Yeah.
not a senior banking officer, but at least a banking officer, right? And then yeah, I am as a chief operating officer.
Mm.
What do I know about being a chief
Right.
operating officer?
Right.
So I
Right.
had to learn a whole lot.
Mm.
I had to reach out to a whole lot of people, a whole lot of mentors like I call him boss, Chukuma Agbata,
Mm.
CFA. I had to reach out to a whole lot of people, the chairman of computer warehouse. I had to reach out to a whole lot of people who then out of their busy schedule
Mm.
devoted time for me to mentor me, to guide and support me through the process. You
Mm.
know, from documentations, putting processes in a new company, from
Mm.
rolling to market. All those people gave me that platform that I needed to
Mm.
learn. And then obviously I had the resources too to execute. And then we went on with Proville, even though we were quite early to the market. We went on, matched, talents, from Nigeria, all over Canada, the
Yeah.
United States, from Kenya to Zambia. We were doing amazingly well for our time,
Mm.
But by 2019, there was need for us to also diversify in terms of our revenue streams. And
Right.
then, like any startup, right, it's a decision of, are you going to keep going, or are you
Right.
going to increase
Just
your revenue streams, right? So those things were decisions that we had to make, and that led to me saying, oh, could we introduce something, different in terms of the approach? And really, that's what really bettered One Case,
oh,
which
okay.
really then became my first official startup.
Oh, okay, okay. So like you left Provo, then you now started
Yes,
one kiosk.
that's correct.
Okay, wow. Okay, let's discuss your one kiosk then. So like I guess for people that don't know like one kiosk, like what is one kiosk?
So One Kiosk basically was inspired by the whole journey, which again, if you look at from the beginning, you would have heard that when I left Stambik, I went into the market, I consulted for businesses, I
Yeah.
worked with them. There's this popular market called a co-market in Lagos, Nigeria, Lagos Island,
Mm-hmm.
where I constantly visited at least minimum 3 times in a week.
Mm.
And 2019 was the year that most companies like OPay, sorry, GG, OLX
Mm.
had a whole lot of restructuring in Nigeria.
Right.
Jumia, Konga, several, restructuring stuff. I think Konga was bought by Zynox and all
Mm.
that.
Mm.
Or Xenox, pardon. So I just asked myself this question: what could we do differently?
Right.
So I came up with an initiative that says, why don't you match every store
Mm.
in Ottawa or in Delaware or in California or in New York
Mm.
to buyers willing to buy from New York?
Mm.
So, in the context of Nigeria, why don't you match every seller in Surulere,
Mm.
Lagos, to people who want to buy from Surulere? The
Okay.
intention was that it will reduce the turnaround time that it took, because before then there was nothing like geo mapping. But I
Mm.
was inspired by the likes of Instant Carts, which you have across the Western world, right?
Yeah.
Where people could just order. Now you have Uber Eats and all that. Where
Yeah.
you could just order and you're being matched to the closest store
Right.
based on your location. So that
Mm.
was what inspired me to build One Kiosk.
Mm.
So we developed an online store for every small business
Mm.
owner. We grew that to about 14,000 businesses at that time,
Mm.
to be able to then have an online storefront, match them based on geolocation,
Mm.
um, and then see how it went. But again, the pandemic struck, right, in
Oh
2020,
yeah.
which was a good thing, right? It
Okay.
wasn't a bad thing, but that disrupted our ability to,
Mm.
do some things that we really wanted to. And in the process of that, we found that these small businesses that we're trying to match based on their location could not actually meet the demands of that location.
Okay.
So why can't they meet the demands of those locations?
Okay.
It was simply because they did not have enough stock and they did not have enough capital to stock up
Mm.
for the people around them.
Mm. And I'm guessing that is what led to Trade Lender.
And that's what bettered Trade Lender in
Interesting
2021.
journey.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Now we've gone into Trade Lender. I guess let's talk Trade Lender.
So by 2021, we knew where the main gap, because again, for e-commerce, right, the margins are tiny.
Yeah.
By the time you put on or layer up delivery fees and all that, if you're not charging the customer, then you're
You're
losing money,
losing.
right, and you're bleeding in
Mm.
terms of business. So we decided that it was time to really attend to the major, underlying factor, which was poor access to capital
Mm.
or tailored made capital. We started Trade Lender as strictly a lending company, um, giving out credit to small businesses, and then we evolved into not just giving out loans and
Mm.
credit, to actually giving them an holistic banking, as a service.
mm,
So today, small businesses can come on our platform, get bank accounts where they
mm,
can send and receive money.
mm.
They can get to pay all the utilities and anything that has to do with their business, right? It's a
Right.
dedicated bank account for their business,
Mm.
right? And then on that, they can then get business credits tailored for them
Right.
within 1 to 6 hours.
Wow.
So we built in an algorithm that attaches a score. Credit score is not something that is common in Nigeria, right? But with
Yeah.
us, we've been able to build that system that we account for the bureau checks and other metrics that then gives every applicant
Mm.
a credit score.
Mm-mm. You know what? I have an interesting question. Like backing up a bit, going back to one kiosk for a second. Like I'm pretty sure like every founder, like you're at a point where you're starting this, there's like a bit of uncertainty, like is this going to work? Is this not gonna work? Like how did you deal with that? One. And two, like at what point did you know that, you know what, yes.
Just can you rephrase that?
Okay, so like every founder, like when they they start a company, they're like, you know what, I'm confident, like not confident, but like towards like this has to work. Like I have a big vision, like I'm gonna do this. Then like I'm gonna get like this amount of users. I'm gonna get like this. I'm gonna be making so much money, and things are gonna be rosy. But we know that the reality is not always the case. So like the first question is, how did you deal with that uncertainty? Then the second question is like, at what point did you know that yes, Trade Lender is going to be a success? Or one kiosk at that point in time is going to be a successful company.
Okay. I know this is not what most people want to hear,
Yeah.
but the truth is, most times you won't know.
Mm,
But as a founder, you have a gut feeling
mm,
that this is going to succeed.
right.
So basically, most often times you won't know, but
Right.
you have the gut feeling that this stuff is going to succeed, especially because you've engaged with the intended customers.
Mm,
So one of the things that I always do,
yeah.
or the steps I take, is actually before even trying to build anything, is to ask customers, do you actually need this?
Mm,
What are your pain points? What are you currently struggling with? Right. So for one kiosk, it was really about just engaging with these people in the marketplace. And one thing I didn't mention was during the 2016 that I resigned from the bank in 2018. Whenever I go into the market, I built rapport with most of these sellers. Some of them even allowed me to snap pictures of their wares, right?
mm,
And I posted it on GG and OLX. And I posted it on GG and OLX saying that I am an
the
wholesaler
seller.
with tons of this product. Pay me for this product and I deliver to you at your doorstep.
Oh, are you going to get it
And
from?
then when people pay, I go to the outlet, pick up the product and deliver.
Wow.
And I made tons of money. So when GG and OLX shut down, I knew that this was the same platform that I'd introduced to these guys to make sales. I needed to do something for them. And
Mm,
that is really how One Kiosk was bettered
mm,
as an online storefront for them to be able to continue to make sales.
That's really interesting. You basically don't know, and yeah, you just start. So I guess, did you like at any point like face through like challenges where like, you know what, am I sure I want to do this, like?
Everybody would face their own stuff.
All right.
It might be different, right? Maybe because of the system that you have, or perhaps maybe the support network that you built,
Mm,
right? But I think every entrepreneur would go through stuffs, and the journey never ends, right?
yeah.
It's in phases. You
Mm,
face a whole new, um, challenge that you need to surmount to be able to move, and progress to the next level.
yeah.
For us, the first thing we struggled with was technology for one
Mm,
case. We struggled with building our technology.
mm,
We wanted to be the instant card for Africa,
mm,
but we couldn't build. We spent tens of thousands
mm,
of dollars.
mm. What do you think was the reason for that? Was it like lack of skill, or what did you think it was?
Yeah, as a then we didn't have I didn't have a co-founder join early. That
Mm,
was the first thing. Um, I literally ran one kiosk in the early days as a sole owner before having two other co-founders joining. Then, so it was quite a struggle, and I think it's also very important for people who are looking to go into business, either tech or whatsoever business,
yeah.
that you ask yourself, what is my strength?
Mm,
What do I need to complement me?
right.
For me, I needed people that could build technology and understood technology rather than me trying to be a business person and also overseeing technology.
Right.
That was lacking.
Mm,
So we spent a lot of money. In fact, when Andela let go of most of the, um, developers,
yeah.
we hired four of them. But guess what? We brought all of them in. We gave them food, morning, afternoon, evening, because we turned my apartment to become the office, right?
Mm,
So we gave them a dedicated room they could sleep, they could code all night, but they were not coding our work, they were coding other work, other people's work.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So 6 months we go, 3 months we go, where's the work? We're still working on it. We're still working on it.
Wow. That's it, it's unfortunate that I guess that's kind of like the situation, but like we won't dwell on that. So like how did you now get past some of these challenges?
So I got my co-founder who joined then, and then we had a simple platform that we finally used, at least for the remaining time before we then pivoted to Trade Lender, and
Mm,
that worked seamlessly. We even had orders from outside of the country trying to buy from products from different locations
mm,
in the country, and then with the pandemic, obviously. We adjusted the model and introduced what we call make a list
mm,
because we had the support of the government of Nigeria through the office of NIDA. Um, Again, just to openly celebrate NIDA. NIDA has been an amazing agency. I think they should be receiving awards every year. So NIDA basically gave us that access. Why everybody was on lockdown. NIDA gave us the access because they knew we had this, a network of small businesses to actually meet the needs of
mm,
several homes. So I can say that we confidently served over 10,000 homes within the pandemic.
mm,
We worked with several NGOs, we worked with these businesses to make sure that whenever there's a demand,
mm,
we went to the closest store or the closest merchant and we delivered,
mm,
to those who needed it. So
mm,
again, the make a list model was just simply you have a list, put it together, a rep is being assigned to you, they cost it, and then they get the product and they deliver it close to you based on the
mm.
merchants available.
Right, right. Okay, okay, nice, nice. Okay, now fast forward back like, to trade lender. So like one kiosk is a totally different model where like, like customers make an order, then like you basically go get the items from, the sellers, then deliver it to the buyers back. But like trade lender is a totally different space where like now you're like in the finance space.
So
And
back to the experience of working in the bank.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But this is even like sort of like different where unlike all of those like people are bringing in their funds and like putting it into the into the bank to save and whatnot. But like this is different where like now people are actually like getting loans from you, to start their own business. So like what was like the initial phase of that like trying to like get the business off the ground?
Okay, so for Trailend, it was slightly different, right? Because we already have a track record of what we did with
Mm,
One Kiosk, right?
mm.
One of the downside of One Kiosk was when we lost quite a lot of money, through a supply. But again, why I'm actually stating that is that we lost close to about then we lost close to I think about 13, 15 million
Mm,
in loss. We had a deal of about 2.1 billion worth of supply with a major player in the ecosystem in
mm,
Nigeria.
yeah.
And along the line, we found out that due to some miscalculations by some of those representatives in the field,
Yeah.
we had gone into negative rather than being in positive.
Oh.
And what that incident taught me was integrity.
Mm.
Where would I get 13 million as at that time, or 13.5 thereabout? You know, to offset this negative.
Right.
I needed to leverage on my network and offset all the necessary debt that accrued.
Mm.
But what that did for me was it gave me a very good name in the ecosystem. So by the time I was starting Trade Lender, we had people who had given us cash,
Mm.
ready cash for us to actually start Trade
Mm.
Lender.
Mm.
And I was not going to make the same mistake that I made previously, right?
Right.
So I decided to look for the right set of people, somebody who could complement me technology wise.
Mm.
Before even touching the money, I made sure that I had somebody who could
Mm.
write all the codes without me having to hire anybody.
Right.
So that gave us that, new platform to, we had the platform ready, the MVP in
Right.
terms of technology within 6 weeks.
Wow.
All we ever outsourced was the UI UX, right? And we had it within six, in fact, plus the UI UX plus the development, everything within 6 weeks was ready without us actually touching the money that we
Wow.
had.
So not only you already had the funds down.
Well, not so much funds, right? Let's
Yeah.
quantify it. We had maybe about 40K US dollars.
Okay.
But that was enough,
But I
right?
mean
That
that's
was
like if
enough.
you if that's probably like maybe
Yeah.
like I don't know like what the exchange rate
Yeah.
then was probably like maybe like 20-30 million or something.
Yeah, I said then. Yeah.
Interesting. So like you had funds on ground already, just due to like building network, building that network with people. Then like you brought in a CTO, and you already had like the developments done in like 6 weeks. So I guess business has started essentially.
Yeah.
So like what did growth then look like? Once you had all of these things on ground.
Yeah, so after deploying the money that
Yeah.
we're given, we didn't have enough money again. And then people constantly came for more money.
Right.
So we then struggled with how do we make ourselves, you know, to become trusted?
Hmm.
How do people trust us to give us more money so that we can give out more money?
Hmm.
We struggled through that process throughout
Hmm.
2021. So
Wow.
we literally only gave out the money we had.
Oh. Hmm.
So by 2022, we needed to change, the system, right? And by 2022, we started harnessing high net worth individuals
Hmm.
who started giving us their money. So 2022, we went through that process, deepening relationships and getting funds from high net worth individuals to increase our loan portfolio.
Hmm.
And then with that, we got further investment from ARM, which is the second largest asset management
Hmm.
company. And then the journey ever since then has been upward, upward, upward. Because
Hmm.
if you look at our numbers from 2021 to 2022, we almost doubled in 2022. And by the end of 2022, we had further investment
Hmm.
entering into 2023.
Hmm.
And, you know, I think we did 4 to 5x, growth in terms of between 2022 and 2023. And then now you can see the projections upward
Hmm.
because now we have more asset managers who trust us with their money.
Hmm.
We have more banks, merchant banks, who trust us with their money.
Hmm.
And some of them are not asking us for our head and our nose. But
Hmm.
we have not stopped at that. We have now built a system that is not just all about loans, but people can now come on our platform and even save. People
Hmm.
can now come on our platform and earn interest
Hmm.
on funds. People can now come on our platform and then become business, gurus.
Hmm.
We have a whole lot of success stories, right? Because we have decided not just to, give out loans, but
Right.
to also build the capacity
Right.
for these small businesses.
Hmm.
So part of what we did was to, instill programs
Hmm.
to help these small businesses transition. And then we added as one of the very few, digital banks for MSMEs who are actually doing interest-based loans as well as Sharia compliant facilities.
Hmm.
Because if you look at Nigeria, Nigeria is a very interesting environment
mm,
where you have some certain people not able to get access to capital
mm,
based on their religion or their social,
mm,
beliefs.
mm,
So we have now built that, bridged that gap by actually having Sharia compliant, inclusive
mm,
facilities for these small businesses so
mm,
that they can grow their businesses and contribute to the society.
Interesting, interesting. I want to digress a bit to talk about spirituality. Like, what, from your perspective, what role does spirituality play into this?
Very important.
Mm,
Very important. Um, I'm a Christian.
yeah.
I'm a Christian. I love God. I know God. I believe everything I've achieved is because He's with me. And one thing I always tell people is I've never been stuck.
Mm,
It might feel as if you're stuck, but I've never been stuck. Never. And that is, really comes back to you believing in something.
mm,
It's either you have to believe you can't be successful without believing in something.
mm,
So you have to choose. Are you going to believe in God or are you going to believe in something else?
right.
Because when it going gets tough,
Mm,
what do you fall back to?
true.
I
True.
think, that's there's always this void, right? And I think we can't really take out that part of that void,
Mm,
in a human being,
mm,
where only that spiritual being or that spiritual reference, either you as a Christian or as a Muslim or maybe as a voodoo or something. That's why I say a lot of people that actually have a lot of money,
mm,
but they are not worthy.
right.
And by worthy, I mean peace of mind.
True, true, true.
You can have all the resources, but
You don't have the
you're not
peace of
okay.
mind to enjoy it.
You're not okay to enjoy it.
Mm,
So, for me, I think being a Christian has really helped me.
mm,
It has helped me to hold my integrity high. It has helped me also in the way I relate with people.
mm,
Transiting from 2024 into 2025, part of um, my focus or my emphasis, still leveraging on this, questions you asked
yeah.
was God help me to execute, but help me to love people genuinely
Mm,
while still executing.
right. Because, like, in business, like, you can, yeah,
It
like,
can be
it
brutal.
can be brutal. And, like, I
Yeah,
think one of the popular, not even the popular, like, is the unspoken rule. Like, in business, you have to be ruthless. Like, you have to be, like, know when to, like, get the resources, know when to, like, cut off, like,
yeah,
you have to be, like, super ruthless.
yeah.
Yeah, wow.
So that was
Interesting.
one of my prayer points.
Mm,
Help me to love people genuinely
mm,
while still actually executing for result. Because
right.
sometimes you need to. Sometimes I've hired someone before, and before the person even properly settled in, I've hired him.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, because it's just what it is, right?
Yeah.
And I always tell people that I'm not attached. I'm not attached to anybody. I want you to get the job done. You also
Mm,
grow capacity by getting the job done,
mm,
but I'm not attached,
mm,
right? And I think again, if you really dig, further, you see that this has also been part of the journey, right? Even with Lenda,
mm,
where I've had to, make difficult decisions,
mm.
just to ensure that the business still stays today.
Interesting, interesting. I also have another sort of unrelated question. Bringing it to family. Like they say, charity begins at home. So like a lot of what I see out there right now, a lot of like the top executives, like they're like super, like their businesses are doing well, but like the family, not so much. Like I guess from your position, like how do you balance like the business needs with like the needs of a family?
Well, I strongly believe that there are quadrants.
Mm,
And when I mean quadrant, I'm saying every quadrant, whether it's business,
mm,
whether it's family, whether it's finance,
mm-hmm.
must be well taken care of for
All
you to
right.
be whole.
Mm,
and also the spiritual side. So there are four quadrants,
Right.
right? So family, business or career, finance, your
And spiritual.
spirituality must be whole for
Mm,
you to be okay.
mm,
So for me, I don't joke with family. Um, I spend time intentionally with my family because when the chips are down,
yeah. They're the ones you go
they're the
back to.
ones you fall back to. When you're
Yeah.
old, when you're no longer in business, your spouse will be the one with you,
Mm,
right? So I don't joke with family. I don't I don't think, yeah, I travel a lot for business. I have to sometimes be away from them for business. But whenever I have the time, I don't joke with it.
mm,
You know, so yeah, I think family, being able to find a balance. There's no one way to it. But I've seen top executives who also then maybe travel with their spouse when they go on business conferences,
mm,
or maybe if the opportunity is not there, they can try to collide, vacation and business, engagements together one way or the other to just find a balance. It doesn't
mm.
mean that they're going to be there with their spouse or with their family, all through the time, but at least just knowing that their
Right.
family is close by, it gives them that reassurance.
Mm,
And one thing that, if we really look at, is the fact that COVID gave us an opportunity to reset.
mm.
For most executives who were not paying attention to their family before COVID,
Yeah.
two things happened. It's either they became conscious of it and began to pay attention to their family,
Mm-hmm.
or that home dissolved.
Mm, mm.
I don't want to call names, but it's something if you look closely
Yeah.
across the world, not just Nigeria, across the world, you really find very interesting.
Mm, true, 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 true. Okay, so going back to like the journey, reflecting on the journey so far, what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs on, yeah, just generally like life and trying to like achieve your goals?
I would say trust the process.
Mm,
Um, I don't think I'm where I want to be, but to a large extent, I've grown. Even just doing a self-assessment,
mm,
I know I've grown. I've built capacity. Um, Many years back, having a setback of maybe 1 million or even the 30 million that I talked about
right.
can be a big issue. But today, I don't think that
That's
is
like a
really,
drop in the water.
well, uh, you know, but just trust the process, right? Don't
Yeah.
try to cut corners.
Mm,
Trust the process. Trust the process.
mm,
It just helps to trust the process.
mm,
By trusting the process, and having, that high integrity
yeah.
in what you do, you would grow.
Mm, mm, mm. Okay.
Focus on the market, because again, you're not solving for yourself. You're not solving what you think is fun, what you think is going to solve a problem for nobody. You're
Mm,
solving for a market. Focus on the market,
mm.
and the market will guide you.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So, coming back to trade lender, like you've achieved all of this success so far. So, like for people watching this, like what should they know about trade lender going forward? Like the vision of trade lender. Like you're talking to like potential customers, potential investors. What should they know about trade lender?
Okay, so for our customers who are listening out there, our trade lender is your right fit partner. Let me put it that way. Are you looking for that bank that would hold your hand, even if you don't qualify for a credit, that will hold you and guide you through the process and help you to be able to, grow your business? We are there for you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go bank with, the traditional banks who will never give you money.
Mm,
Don't go build transactions on banks, you know, who will not give you loans without asking for upfront collateral. Come
right.
to us. We are here for you.
Mm,
But one more interesting thing is, don't come to us when you need the money. Come to us before you need the money.
mm,
Because one other thing that I found out is most people come to us when they need the money, forgetting that it's like a marriage.
mm,
You have to know us first.
Mm.
before you go into the wedding.
Right.
You can't just meet, an opposite, or your
Yeah.
spouse or somebody, or a lady or a guy, and that is the day you go to the altar.
True. True. You
You
have to
need to
develop.
build a relationship. It's a mutual engagement,
Mm.
right? In as much as we want to be able to drive financial inclusion, but we have a whole lot of pipeline, right?
Right.
So come to us before you need the money.
Mm.
Grow with us, and we would always be there for you. And
Mm.
we've had success stories of several people. We have Poshme, we have Calagas, all these guys, we have Obi. We have a whole lot of people who have
Mm.
grown consistently. Outlet, 4 outlets, 6 outlets, 100 distribution outlets just by working with us.
Mm.
And
Mm.
all these are verifiable. Check our social media channels. Just check Trade Lender. So Trade and Lender with an A that ends with an A. Check it out. We are here intentional about you. And for
Mm.
investors, the vision for us is built to return positive returns for every stakeholder that works with us. And we have three cardinals for this year, 2025. In case some people are going to be listening to this after this year, for 2025, we have three cardinals. One of it is to be able to grow our revenue, annual recurring revenue, to $5 million equivalent this year. That's the first cardinal. The second of it is actually to grow our, you know, our user base to between 500 to 1 million within the next, 12 to 18 months.
Mm.
Which we're already on track at.
Mm.
We've already successfully onboarded over 100,000 plus.
Mm.
So it simply means that out of the community that we have of 260, we're already getting close. By the time we cover that number, we're already past half of those, targets already, and we're
Right.
already just in first quarter
Right.
of 2025.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the last goal is actually to get a finance house license, which gives us or moves us away from just a money lending license that we currently have, which is a state regulated license, to actually a national central bank license. And
Mm.
we're already on track. Within the next 6 to 9 months, we're going to be achieving that goal. So this is the best time, whether you are a stakeholder, an investor, a regulator, this is the best time for us to work together. But it doesn't stop at that. Our vision is actually to create the next 1 million jobs.
Mm.
And to be able to do this, we are working with not just governments, we're working with different stakeholders, even NGOs,
Mm.
to be able to, you know, facilitate tailored made financing
Mm.
for different segments of the market, whether
Mm.
it's women focused,
Mm.
whether it's Sharia compliant. We have the capacity, we have the team, we have experts on the team who have worked with the World Bank, to facilitate different projects across different regions targeted towards the grassroots. So if you someone watching today or tomorrow and you believe that you want to be part of this vision, you can send an email.
Mm.
You can send an email to investor trade lender, or you can send an email to me, right? Or just find a way to reach out to me,
Mm.
and we can take the conversation further.
Okay, awesome, awesome, awesome. I guess any last thoughts to the audience, any last thing you'd like to also share.
I would say that we all have a role
Mm.
in this positive change
Mm.
that we want to see.
Mm.
For us at Trade Lender, we believe that by creating jobs, we can reduce the social vices.
Mm.
And by leveraging on technology, we can accelerate our impact.
Mm.
Everyone has a role to play.
Mm.
The question is, do you want to sit on the fence,
Mm.
or do you want to be part of the movement?
Mm.
Join the movement today.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you very much, Adeshina.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Cut. Wow.
Ah, over.
That was